Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the call to order for the Judicial and Public Safety Strategic Planning and Technology Commission. My name is Judy Braca. I am the chair of this commission. The first order of business would normally be a voice vote on the remote attendance of one of the commission members, Rochelle Conan. Ms. Conan, if you could please identify by voice.
Hello, Rochelle Conan.
Thank you. But we do not have a quorum, so we cannot have a voice vote. Ms. Conan, I don't anticipate that there will be any votes because we don't have a quorum, but you are certainly able to listen. And I will ask if you have comments or questions, just like any other commission member that is present in person.
Thank you.
Then that the recording secretary, Madam Secretary, could you please call the roll?
Guerrero. Guerrero here. Berman.
Who's here?
Conan.
Here.
Cruz. David. Felton. Not here. Hain. Not here. Hull. Molina.
Molina present.
Mosser.
Present.
Here, I guess not here. Wallers. And Braca.
Present. Madam Chair. You have to call for Madam Chair as well. She's a commission member.
And Pirog. Madam Chair, she is out today. Absent.
Mr. Waller and Mr. Felton had previously phoned the recording secretary to indicate they were unable to attend today. Judge Hull, former Chief Judge Hull, now Judge Hull, received notice of this meeting instead of the new Chief Judge, Rob Villa. But Chief Judge Villa is unavailable anyway. We'll correct that error. Representing the judiciary is the court administrator, Andrea O'Brien, who we can direct questions to. Also, for the Kane County Bar Association, Mr. Fegans was not able to be present, but Mr. Bob Keel is here as a representative for the purposes of this particular commission meeting, not for vote, and we won't be having votes, but he is expected to be the nominee for the coming year from the Bar Association as their representative. That still has to be approved by Madam Chair and the Chief Judge. So having called the roll, we do not have a quorum, and therefore the approval of the minutes will need to be deferred to the next meeting. We'll get right then into the CMS reports and the budget reports. There were indications previously that we were not going to have a quorum today, but it's mid-year in the budget process, and the stakeholders in the justice system and the other commission members really should be able to have an idea now of what the budget process is developing into for the duties of this commission to recommend a final budget in October. And so this meeting is actually really good information-wise to explain what's happening. And our duty certainly will be there in October to make our recommendations on a budget to the full county board through their process and how they are going to determine the budget for the next fiscal year. And so rather than just come in cold in October, I know that Roger Fonstock and Bob Enright did a lot of work in preparing for today, and we thank them for that. And I'll turn it over then to whoever is going to present this first CMS report on Odyssey XM.
Okay. Good afternoon. This is Roger Fonstock with IT, and I think, some of these slides may be just an overview or a review of the past, but these are the things that we have running off of the case manager and Odyssey for those of you that aren't familiar with it. I'm not going to read through all of these, but generally speaking, the different parts of the court system, including some things that are created and developed in-house, like the electronic court orders or Echo. And then we have some things that kind of step outside of Odyssey as well, which be like the electronic ticketing and some of the other things that we do with collections where we're sending or receiving data and files from the system. But we also have attorney manager, which is worked with the state's attorney's office and public defender, and the judge edition for the judiciary. That was kind of the original package that was acquired by the county back in 2000. It was around 2012 when we started this. We've been running this for about 12 years now. I think we went live sometime with, was it version 2014? Was the version in 2016 we went live with it, but it's been a process for the last 10 or 12 years to get where we're at today. This year we've been working on the implementation of court supervision or supervision with the court services office. So court services, Lisa Austin, then move forward with a product for supervision that's also a Tyler product. So about the time we were deciding to go with Tyler Odyssey or working on the RFP for a court system, supervision was moving forward with a package of software from a company called Capita, or they refer to it as C5. And it was case management and a kind of an initial step. And they use that product from around 2014 till present. And knowing what Odyssey had acquired or Tyler had acquired, and Tyler is now calling it Enterprise Court, I believe, but Tyler had acquired a product that was doing the supervision and actually doing it quite well. And the product that we had from C5 Capita had kind of run its course. So the opportunity to switch and integrate and fully do that was a prospect we didn't want to pass up. And I know Lisa Aust and the court supervision and the courts were very supportive, and they actually funded basically the upgrade to supervision to move in this direction. I think it'll be finished in, what do you think, Bob? Early 2025?
Maybe March.
March 2025. And that will bring supervision on board with the Enterprise Court. And we're hoping that that'll help with coordination of information that right now is either manually entered from court into that. And then the other side of that is when you have violations or other things, getting that data back into the court system, or even things that are shared with the sheriff's office. So we're hoping that that'll continue to integrate and make the information a little bit more seamless to people. The next slide, I'm not sure exactly, Bob, these are just the listing of the different things
Those are
that
just
we
some of
have
the
going on.
integrations. Yeah, some of the integrations. Yeah.
Okay, so integrations for this, he's got lists. These are just lists of them, so I'm not going to read them to you, but we do a lot with some custom applications that have been written. And then there's also things that we interface to, like e-file is Odyssey, but there's also the state of Illinois. Illinois Courts has their e-file portal or page where they have a launch site. You can go do e-file with other providers. We're integrated with Tyler, which is the broker for e-file at the state level. That's probably one of the more significant interfaces that we have. And then we also have the in-house electronic courtroom or electronic court orders that was developed internally between the circuit clerk staff and IT and the court partners. So I think that's two of the really big applications. We do some work with traffic school to get information back and forth for people that are signing up for the traffic school. But I think the big ones are e-file and electronic court. And then collections, we send out the file for collections and work with collections to get their notices and the things that they do, but it's not as heavy of an interface as some of the other ones. Citations, we do have Brazos e-ticketing. That's another module of Odyssey. It was something that was acquired by Odyssey, or by Tyler, I should say. And then we have I'm not sure what LEA squad car is, Bob, honestly. Law enforcement
It's on the next-
records.
It explains on the next.
You got it on the next page. These are Bob's slide. I'm sorry, but
page.
which one did you skip?
So,
Blair?
so law enforcement, so in January, we had public safety. So we have from the squad car into Odyssey, if somebody gets detained, it will communicate with Odyssey real time from the squad car as opposed to papers going back and forth. So there's squad, this is outside of traffic citations. So the squad car and the courts have that real time connectivity. So there's the purpose of this is just to show some of the connectivity, because I know there's some folks here that were not part of the initial Odyssey and are relatively new to Odyssey. So there are a lot of integrations and places where Monica and the circuit clerks folks have plugged in and are communicating with Odyssey, along with the supervision product, which will be going live in 2025. They talk to each other as well. So
May I ask a question
Sure.
on that?
Go ahead.
Probably to, the clerk and the state's attorney. Does that integration assist in, the preparation of paperwork at a different pace or an easier system for bond call and case initiation?
So actually, it's the integration with the Safety Act that went into place. There's a lot of the officers have to release on site for some of the class 4 felonies. So it's a way for them to create the synopsis and get a case number back to the individuals. So the paperwork actually has the case number on it so that they know what it is and to assign a court appearance date. That paperwork also goes over to the state's attorney's office, public defender and court services so that they can start their paperwork earlier to prepare for first appearance court.
So State's Attorney Monster, I would say yes, it does, especially because we now have a whole new system that we're doing for first appearance court because we no longer have bond court. And so we start prepping early in the morning to decide who is going to be a conditions of release individual versus somebody who we're going to hold over for the afternoon for detention. So yes, I do believe that this has been a very effective means of us running the new court call that we've had since September of last year.
The last two on there are things that have been pretty much from the beginning, the public access portal, and then you have the e-payment for online payments that people make. So Blair, thanks. Want to take these, Bob?
go ahead.
Okay.
You're doing fine.
Yeah. Court reminder, I don't work with this daily, so forgive me, but we do have Bob and Monica. They're more of the experts on this, but court reminders, you can subscribe and get court reminders. I think it's, is it text and email? Text and email. They got the state disbursement unit, the Odyssey tools that exchange data with the state for child support integration, victim impact notification. It's it is what it says. Does the notifications for the victim impact through the state. Cane supervision and probation. That's something that we already mentioned. It's coming. We've been working with Tyler on their court supervision. What was it originally called, Bob, before it became court supervision?
Caseload Pro.
Caseload Pro was acquired by Tyler a few years back, and I think that's been something that we've been talking about for a couple years now. We're excited to see that go.
Can I just add something on
Go
that for people, for new members or that
Sure.
are here? It is so important to have a good system to track the Kane County supervision and probation cases because that record keeping has to go to the Administrative Office of the Illinois Courts, which determines funding for that contribution of funding for the probation system. And so if we don't have accurate records about what is happening with the probation officers, what they're doing, we're not getting a fair share of funding from the state for the reports. And so it is
Yeah.
so important to have that integrated.
This particular slide, it's just showing you what we have that went live in 2016, the circuit clerk's office, state's attorney's office, the public defender's office, and the judiciary and judges. That all went live with the original base product in the 2016. Then we have other products from Tyler. We started with Tyler, not Tyler, but New World from they were in Troy, Michigan. New World provided us with a contract for finance and ERP for the county in about 2005. And then subsequently in 2008, 7 and 8, we implemented the New World jail and sheriff records. And then we brought on dispatch for 911 around 2008. And that was about the same time that the jail was constructed over in unincorporated St. Charles. We also shortly after we get the Odyssey products for court up and running, we bought Brazos and Soft Code, agency intelligence for the sheriff through Tyler. And sometime in the period around the time just before Soft Code, Tyler bought New World. They acquired New World Technologies. So Tyler's a Texas company that does specialized in court and in finance and some other things. And they actually picked up and purchased New World for the sheriff law enforcement access and record system. So part of the goal was to have a fully integrated and shared record system for courts and public safety. But we're still working at that. I can tell you it has not happened as fast as we would have liked. We'd like there to be a lot more integration, but it's coming. They're still doing things that every time we get a release, there's more advantages to that integration. And I think when they get supervision on there, there'll be some interesting integration for that as well. That'll help and improve things. In 2024, we did do a major upgrade to the 2023 version. It was something that took all of the offices and departments a lot of time and effort. And one of the things that we learned is that this is probably about a cycle that we're going to go through every year to 2 years. And it is a major undertaking. It takes a lot of staff and a lot of time and a lot of technology to do this. And it cannot be done by one office or department. We have to do it together, and we have to validate and verify all the software working. And we go back and forth with Tyler to try to make sure that everything is ready before we go into production. We run multiple environments of the products so that we can test and we can actually stage different versions of the products. And once we test, stage, and when we get this ready, we will eventually schedule and do a production upgrade. But we have to have all of the partners aligned and everybody agree that it's working the way it's supposed to before we move. So that's been a huge effort and undertaking. Some of the things you're going to see related to the budget are affected by that, because we originally thought we might be able to get away with doing upgrades every 3 or 4 years. And because of the features and the things that they're releasing, and also for compatibility and support, we're essentially being put into an upgrade every 2 years or less.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you. I did notice that you failed to put in 2018 and
Yeah.
2020,
Go back then.
2022. I mean,
Yeah.
we've been slowly upgrading.
I'm going to give the Clerk Barrero a compliment. When she started, she told us we have to upgrade this year. I'm like, okay. I go, well, we got a lot of cooperation, a lot of work. And she really wanted us to get that first upgrade under our belt, because we kind of, in the transition of offices, it sat. It got, to the point where we're like, okay, we have a new state's attorney coming in, we have a new circuit clerk coming in, we have all these things changes. And I know she and even state's attorney's office with their team, it was a significant push to get the upgrade done. This last year it's a significant push every time we upgrade. Now you have competing interests. Because we have the sheriff needs to upgrade, the finance system needs to upgrade. We go through elections, taxes, all the different things that are competing interests, but the court is going to probably settle in on a 2-year schedule to upgrade. It's going to be that tight in order to keep up with all the new mandates, new changes, things that happen. I can see that being a persistent challenge, not only for the time and the people, but the money to do the process. Even the state of Illinois reporting, it's just been an ongoing effort to try and get those things working properly. And then they had the Safety Act requirements. I know Monica and everybody, they put in tons of time to try and get all of that into the system and make sure it's working. Again, 2025, we're gonna be doing more with Brazos and e-citation integration, and then hopefully we'll have the court services. Not hopefully, it'll happen. It'll be done. We'll be on the new court services system in 2025. I think court services, they've had nothing but good things as far as I've heard about their implementation process. So either that or they're just keeping it from me. But yeah. So Blair, next slide. Axon, this is something that was new that we brought in. State's Attorney's Office was looking for something to handle the evidence, video, and other evidence, but a lot of it was video. You get just thousands and thousands of in-car camera videos and other things, and there is not a court case management system that's really set up to manage that, to do the annotation and the record keeping on videos. And the state's attorney's office, their team solicited, and I think they went out and looked at different systems, and Axon was brought in. The first year there was kind of a cooperative of funding for this, and then we were moving it to the actual 127 fund, which is this fund. That's in the budget this year. That's something that we're trying to make sure that we have everything accounted for, and you'll see that in the budget. Then there's some statistics about, the juvenile and abuse and neglect. I'm not sure, Bob, if there's anything other about that than the fact that we're working on getting their evidence in there.
Just keep more and more.
Yeah.
More and more.
It's a workhorse. I mean, the actual evidence.com. And the other thing that's really good about that is sharing with outside law enforcement and other agencies. The state's attorney's office gets the licensing to do full featured annotation and record keeping, but we can actually give access to other agencies to upload or to provide them with access. They can do the sharing with attorneys and things like that without what they used to do, which was, try to put it onto media and get it to them in a more manual way. This gives them a way to have a repository for sharing as well. And that's the law enforcement site that they're talking about. Let's see. Yeah, 30 private defense attorneys into the system. It's probably grown since the time Bob made the slide. Next slide, Blair. We done? Okay, good. I'm out of the clear. Oh. Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff that happens. I don't claim to know all of it. We have a really large, good team working on it. Bob is one of our process project managers. Monica is an expert in the system for the circuit clerk's office. And then we have our applications and data team, Davis and them. I can tell you, one of the interesting things, if you're not familiar with it, is that in the last 10 years, the courts and public safety, because of this implementation, the county resources and what we do in IT, this has actually become one of our main priorities. It has to be, because it has to work. It's one of the systems that's just unforgiving. It has to work, and has to work all the time, and it has to be maintained and upgraded. So the part you're going to look at with the budget is critical to that. If we don't have this in place and we don't keep this asset maintained the way that we're doing, you lose the value of the asset really quickly. And we put, I think about first 5 years was almost $13 million worth of effort. And so, right now we're looking at the budget, and you'll see this in a minute, where we're talking about 1.8, 1.9 million in maintenance and operations of this. And that doesn't include what the elected officials put into it. This is what we're putting into it for license maintenance, software maintenance, consulting to help us with the integrations and with the work. And then we have some staff that are in here that are helping us with the products each year. So if you have any questions, I think, we've got Bob and Monica. They're probably more expertise in the products than I am.
Does anyone have any questions? I know that Mr. Bill Roth, Kent County Board Member, is present as an observer. Mr. Roth, do you have any questions about the functioning or the system at all?
No, I'm actually a little bit familiar. One of the nonprofits I belong to, Fox Valley Court Watch, we get an extract from Odyssey every week, which is all the outstanding
Yep.
domestic violent court cases. And we worked with the circuit court probably 6 to 8 years ago. And I came in and said, here's what we need. And it took a while to explain. But it's been working pretty seamlessly, for us since.
Any other questions? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you, for that, Mr.
Yep,
Fonstar.
yep.
Next item then, goes into the budget report.
Sure.
And this is for purposes of education for the process, because
Sure.
every department is in the midst of their budgets right now. And so again, the importance of this is that the stakeholders in the justice system have an idea of what is going to be funded through the 127 fund as they go through their budget process and preparing what they need. Okay, go ahead, Roger.
Okay, this is Roger again. So I ran the budget reports that were provided by finance, and I put them in the packet. The budget report since that time, it's changed by a couple $1,000s. Most of it is related to the benefits administration. There's a couple things changed, I think, like unemployment insurance or some other things. But the main contractual commodities or capital part of this, that they've remained the same. Most of it's contractual services for consulting and software license. And then there's also some money for salary and wages for people that we're paying out of this. So if you start at the top, you'll see revenue. And a lot of people are, and I provided a handout too, if you can't read the numbers on the screen. It's the same budget one report in the upper right-hand corner. And you'll see the revenue, they show 1.5 million in revenue. And that's actually based on the 2024 adopted budget. So the revenue from the RTA sales tax is what funds this, and it's a percentage of the RTA sales tax that was dedicated for courts and public safety. There's actually a court judiciary one, and then there's a public safety one that's separate from this. But this one is just the judicial sales tax portion. And you'll hear us refer to it as Fund 127 or the 127 fund. So 1.5 million is what was submitted as a revenue estimate. You'll also see investment income, which is interest on our fund balance. That's $40,786 in interest that we earned. And then you have the third item is fund balance utilization. So the fund balance last time I checked was somewhere, I think, and we have it in one of the slides, but it was in excess of $1 million in the fund balance. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But so in order to build the budget, we had revenue and investment income, and then we're going to use some of the fund balance for this year. If you go down to the expense side of it, you'll see $321,000 in salary and wages. A lot of the increase, which is 8.4%, is related to complying with the equity study and participating in that. And now we're actually seeing those costs manifest in our annual expenses because of classification of the employees to get them to the right compensation with other comparable jobs. But it went up 8.4% from $297,000 to $321,000. You'll see some of the other costs that are added into this, like healthcare, dental, FICA, IMRF. Those are costs that we don't have any control over. They're just related to having the personnel. And as you get down to contractual and consulting services, we went from 240 to 260 and increased it a little bit. Some of that's just additional costs for having consultants and contractors to help us get through some of the work that our staff can't do. And then you'll see the software licensing cost, which is $1,124,000, and that went up considerably. A lot of that is the axonevidence.com. Again, that was something that was like a shared expense. There was a few funds where we could pull the money together when we initially contracted it. But if you look at the resolution, the idea was that this was going to move into the 127 fund. So you'll see that in the 127 fund. And then there's also an increase in cost for the software licensing with Tyler. I wanted to bring up, one point. The software licensing with Tyler does have an incremental increase annually. They do not do long-term contracts anymore. They want you to license and relicense annually. And we've been told to plan on that being somewhere just under 5%. So could be 3, could be 4 or 5, but that's what we've been told to try to budget. So we did have a 5% increase in the software license just for Odyssey. And I think the software license for Odyssey is around 600,000-700,000, I think now. So you add 5% to it, it's, $30,000-$40,000 increase. But those they're all itemized in report 2. There's other software that's included in there. Report 2 has what they call the budget detail. And Blair, if you go to the next page, you'll see these are all the salary and benefits. Actually, go up one. I'm sorry. Yeah, go up one. We'll just go through this real quick. So if you look at the bottom of this page, you'll see the 40,000 series on the left. And then you'll see the titles of the types of positions that we have. And then to the right's the costs. And that's a roll down total of the personnel that's in this. You have a project manager 2 that's partially paid from this. And then you have a desktop support analyst 1 and 2, and a process manager and a data analyst. These are the positions that we fund using this money to work on the court system. If you roll down one more page, Blair, these are the benefits associated with those positions. One more. And this is where about middle of the page, you'll see contractual consulting, and then you'll see software licensing. In the 51, I think it's 5140 or 5340. Anyway, that's the list of all the software and the costs associated with the software. The second line item, you'll see Axon software, SAO, PDO. We could probably add a few more things to that. But that's showing $218,000. That was something that we moved in specifically that increased the costs this year. But it was planned. It was part of the resolution. It wasn't a surprise to us. And there's also other costs that we have. And again, seeing those costs incrementally go up for different maintenance. The Tyler Enterprise Court maintenance contract is the 525, but you'll see other things related to it. ODR is in there, which is dispute resolution. You'll see things for interfaces. Then we have, a couple of other DocuSign has been added where we do electronic signatures and electronic signing. And then we do have a kind of a catch-all, which is just additional Tyler software for courts. We have things come up where there's something that needs to be purchased for the Tyler courts to do something or make something work. So it's always good to have some funds available for that. There's 75,000 for that. And then as you roll down, Blair, another slide, a lot of these are related to workers' comp, unemployment. We do have $30,000 for conference and meetings. What we use that for is once a year, we send everybody out to Tyler Connects that wants to go from offices or departments. We try to send one person from each office or department. And it is this year, the conference was Indianapolis. I think everybody drove, so we probably saved some money. I don't think anybody flew to Indianapolis, but so we do that every year. And I think that's important because everybody gets a chance to see what products are there, what new products are available, things that Tyler is trying to do. And then the last piece is just to keep a relationship with the people that sell and service our products. Then the last part is there is a transfer out to IT at the bottom, which is just the support of the products and things that we do for the 127 fund for our administrative overhead, because this is a special fund from sales tax, and that's $25,000 transfer out. That's calculated based on a rate that we did from a fee study. So it's based on how many users are being, or how many employees are being paid for out of the fund. So it buys their software license maintenance and services out of the special fund. If you go to the next slide, I think we're just about done. There's the totals. So we're balanced. We're at 1.8 million and some change. And we have 1.8 million in expenses. We do have a couple $100,000, $300,000, $337,000 coming from the fund balance. Blair, if you hit the next slide, that's the balance sheet for the fund. And sorry, where is it? Should be fund balance unreserved. That's the part that you have that's not obligated to liabilities or expenses. It's unreserved. Now, when you look at that and you think about, you're going to get about, I think our revenue statement was 1.5 million. We get just a little over $100,000 a month in revenue. Let's say 120. One of the things that we have to be aware of is that this money comes in month to month. So you have to kind of pace yourself spending it, or you have to have a fund balance in order to start the year. So we've been told that we need to have at least 90 days or 3 months worth of fund balance. So a budget of 1.8 million, we have to have basically 25% of that in the fund balance in order to start the year. We're way above that, so we're not concerned about that. We are going to pull $300,000 of the fund balance, though, in order to fully fund next year's operations. And I was mentioning with Judge Braca that before the meeting that, like, one of the concerns I have is this is based on sales tax. You have to be mindful that if sales tax is not going up, is flat, or going down, it could affect what you do with this budget in the future. We've seen good growth in this fund from sales tax over the years. This year we're budgeting at flat, and that's very conservative. It could be higher than what we're projecting. It could also be lower. I think some of the things that we would do to control that would be if we have a vacancy or if we wanted to cut back on some of the consulting services. There are some things that we could look at in terms of cutting it back. I don't see any reason to do that right now. I think that we're in a good stretch where we're going to add supervision. We're going to do another upgrade of the system shortly. And then we still have some integration and other things that we want to do. So I think keeping pace and keeping the spending, as long as we have the fund balance and we're not losing any revenue right now, it would be good to keep the budget as is, as recommended, pull the money from the fund balance, and continue to watch the sales tax revenue.
So in other words, Roger, the fund equity, the fund balance that's
Oh.
unreserved is basically our safety net.
That's your cash.
Yeah, for
Essentially.
what doesn't come in the sales tax, but obviously that's.
No.
Isn't there a percentage of the highway tax that goes into that every
Yes.
year?
That's the 120,000 a month that's
Okay.
coming in. Yeah, it's this year they're estimating 1.5 million will come in over 12 months.
Okay.
And it has a little bit of a delay because it's sales tax collection. So
Right. So,
some-
but eventually, if you keep going to the safety net,
That's right.
there's not gonna be any of it left.
that's true. And there was, there is a historical kind of conversation behind this, which we don't need to revisit, but there's a lot of things that have changed over time. So when this was originally started, there was a cost share about the software license maintenance and a cost share about a lot of things that other parties and officials. And what has happened is that we've been able to support this primarily from the fund. It'd be nice to keep it that way, but there was a discussion about sharing the license cost with, certain offices and things like that, sharing capital, who maintains it over time with people. So, I think originally sharing the license costs with the offices was one concept or one thing that they'd had. Another was we should get all the people out of the 127 budget. So we have probably $400,000 worth of people that are helping to support the court system. Okay, well, it's probably not realistic to say we could do it with fewer people. So if we don't pay for the people from 127, does the general fund or a special fund, somebody else pick up those resources? So So I really, I don't think that it's feasible to do it without the people. So there'll be some interesting discussions as the sales tax numbers come in.
But, it goes to, I'm not as familiar with what the current policies are in
Sure.
writing from the county,
Yeah.
but, the fact is that the funding of the, salaries and the people that maintain the capital asset are still part of that capital asset. And so, there's certainly justification for what is being done here legally and under general accounting principles. Now, I don't know if the county doesn't go with general accounting principles and their policies, but, it's certainly, there. And, in preparing, there was an attachment on the commission index about the ordinance that has that. I also have, and I didn't include it, but I have the budget, the fund ordinances too. And how those were
Sure.
developed. I have copies of those,
Oh.
along with the settlement agreement that actually created this commission, was the basis for creating this commission.
If I may, the one thing I would point out, the sales tax from the RTA sales tax right now, I think the projection is that the revenue from the sales tax in gross would be 25 million. And this fund for 127 is 6% approximately, and that's 1.5 million in revenue. Now, public safety, sheriff side of it, they do cars, software. We do infrastructure for public safety, networking for 911, some radio, other things. That's 9%. So it's 1.5 plus another half. It's 2.2 million for the public safety sales tax portion. And then there's a portion that is the largest portion is transportation.
Right.
So I think they're around 80%. And then there's also an operational overhead that's going to the general fund, I believe. So that's kind of the breakdown. About 80% transportation, 9% goes to public safety, and 6 to judiciary. And there's a couple percent of overhead.
So this will be the 2025 budget that is going to be submitted for approval. Unless there's some change, unless something happens in between now and the final day for October.
If I may,
Go ahead.
so this is Roger again. The way this will work is the departmental submittal was done by IT. So we put this in for the budget request. This will go from department to committee, which is essentially the commission, and then it would go to finance, executive, and full county board. It can be changed along the way. The ordinance does kind of say that this commission recommends the budget to the board. But it can change along the way. There's things that change with some of the different personnel benefits and things like that. They come up. So there might be some minor changes. I noticed that there was a change between what Blair had and what I had by, I think, $2,000. So I was like, which report did you get? So that will happen, but I think substantially it'll remain the same unless we have something come up that says, you need to change it and do something differently.
Is there anything from the stakeholders that they see is lacking in going through the 127 fund that you need, that is the request? Because obviously that's the purpose of the commission, is to make recommendations to the county. Axon is being funded through this. Is there something else from the clerk's office or public defender or any other office that's a justice stakeholder user of this particular system that should be run through this?
Currently, I don't believe so. My objective for asking for the meeting when we were discussing agenda was that we maintained what this fund is and what its use is. So that with all the issues with the budget, with the county budget, they see $1 million and they start to salivate. And there are only certain uses for this money, for these dollars. And the fact that we need to keep moving forward in upgrades to the system and integration to get all our other judicial partners on board, it's imperative that we keep at the pace we are. And that was my main objective.
You did good.
Well, it's certainly important, and part of, like, it was sort of shocking to me when Roger said that, we've been doing this, for 12 years plus, because I remember when we started, and I remember the Siler litigation and how that went through. But I think that historical perspective is often lost, and people, like you said, they see a fund and they see money and they don't understand what that signifies and how that fund came about. And that fund is really part of the settlement agreement.
Yes.
And so, there's a lot that needs to be educated or passed on when they think that, or someone has the idea, well, we'll just switch those things around. It's really not too feasible when you look at the settlement agreement.
Berman here. People really forget about what was the past. They forget about when it went on and what we've gone through to get where we are. And they don't understand the dollars tied to it from the past. But, and you look at the budget, and that's a lot of money. But we're supporting a heck of a lot of programs that keeping things going in the county. And people don't realize that. We need opportunities like this to put that information in front of them, hopefully that they can understand it and believe it. It's good.
Thank you for that budget presentation, Roger. And then hopefully it remains adequately funded from our sources and no big changes. Okay. Any other questions for Roger about the budget? All right. Next on the agenda had been ordinance review and discussion. I prepared an index on the Judicial and Public Safety Technology Commission, and how it morphed into that strategic planning was added. And so you could see by the ordinance numbers and the dates of what had happened. The commission was originally established in 2011 as part of a settlement agreement in the Siler v. Kane County litigation. And from there, the commission that was the settlement agreement. That's the court case MR number that the clerk has custody of. And from there, in the settlement agreement, it provided for establishing this commission, which was then done in December of that year. The commission was enlarged in 2013 to include an additional member of the public, which actually is really important. And although our two public members were not able to be here today, it is important to get public input on originally the expenditure of tens of millions of dollars. When you take this Odyssey system over years, we're talking about an investment of tens of millions of dollars. And so the idea too, to have the Kane County Bar Association have a representative, because certainly the lawyers who are users in the system are stakeholders as well. And then in 2014, there was a group that felt that this commission, because of the makeup being all the stakeholders that use the Judicial Center campus and then having the public at large, that it would be an easy fix to include strategic planning of expansion of the Judicial Center campus. And so it sort of morphed into something that was not really in keeping with the original settlement agreement and the real purpose of the commission. And for a while in 2014 and 2015, there was a lot of talk about expanding the courts and building that that other building on the grassy knoll at the Judicial Center campus and what we were going to do. But the fact of the matter is that statistically, case filings having gone down, that there was just not enough justification for courtrooms. Now, there's other people, and certainly the Safety Act has hatched a whole bunch of positions. And where those people work and work out of is a whole different issue, but it expanded the scope of this commission to something that was really never the original purpose. And that focus, then in 14, it was added for additional public members, an additional judge and another attorney practicing in Kane County, which is actually my appointment to the commission is now, because I'm a retired judge. And so I could say I'm a practicing attorney. I'm certainly a Kane County Bar Association member, licensed, and I hold that particular slot on this commission. And then the two things were just housekeeping, permitting electronic attendance, and then redefining the chairman's office. And after having discussed with various stakeholders, including Madam Chair and IT, and the chief judge at the time, it seemed to be prudent to define our scope of this commission back to its original purpose. And so the draft ordinance that was sent out is not meant to be the final draft. And unfortunately, I did attract changes, with red and everything, but that was not able to be transmitted. But I'm happy to send that track changes to everyone so that you could see what the actual additions and subtractions were from everything else and from the prior history. And I wanted to ask the state's attorney to work on reviewing this as well and making sure that we are in compliance with current law. What they may have done in 2011, now in 2024, I don't know if there has to be any other substantive changes. I don't think so. And then there's another small issue about the Kane County, the member that is appointed from the Kane County Board jointly by the chairman and the chief judge. I'm an appointment by the chairman. There's a separate member from the Kane County Bar Association that's appointed by the chairman and the chief judge jointly. And there's some discussion that appointment could be made ex officio for an officer in the Kane County Bar Association. For example, as Mr. Keel is here today, he's the vice president of the Bar Association. And so the idea is just like the ex officio members that are here, state's attorney, clerk, public defender, chief judge, that Kane County Bar Association position be ex officio for the officer of the Bar Association, so that it doesn't have to go through all of the status of the chief judge and the chairman conferring and submitting resumes and things like that. We can always reserve their authority to make an appointment otherwise, but it could fall ex officio and then for good cause shown, be otherwise appointed by the chief and the chair to reserve their authority. And I did not have that suggestion at the time this draft was done, but maybe I could work with the state's attorney on that. If there's anybody else that's interested or has something that you think that you want to add that's in keeping with the original charge of this commission, and has to do with the recommendations for a Judicial and Public Safety Technology Commission, because we don't have any other budget to look at. The scope of adding the building really expanded it and never came to anything. And they went ahead and did the building for the coroner without even going through this commission, which was the ordinance. And at the time I asked the chief judge and the chair you know, the commission this is actually supposed to be going to the commission. Do you want, you know, should somebody speak up on this? And nobody wanted to do it. And so,
Mhm.
why have it when it's not going to function? I mean, it's just a useless purpose. And so, we're talking about the 127 fund. We're committed to that. That's what historically this is. Hopefully we'll keep the history. I know Roger has all of the history. There's members here that have come on that have history from a certain point. You know, we'll keep our historical perspective. But once we get a final draft and submit it to the commission, hopefully there won't be objections. If someone has a suggestion of something that they want to have added or subtracted, please make it now so that in October, when we have a final draft and we can submit it to the commission to then submit to the county, you know, we don't have to go back and do something else.
Great.
Does anybody have anything that they think that they want to add right now, or a question or anything? It was all original language. I really wish that track changes addition would have gone out. I think I'll send you the track changes anyway so that you could see what that is. I think that will be helpful and put everything in perspective.
Okay.
So, any comments or anything on that? Any new business that anyone wants to put on the agenda for October that you can think of right now? Otherwise, obviously you could do that in October. I don't think we can't, in terms of, we can't do any vote for putting any reports on file, although they are on file, they'll stay on file. And, we don't have a quorum to vote on adjournment either. So unless there's something that someone who is present wishes to bring up or address, hearing nothing, then, I call our meeting adjourned and ended. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Ms. Foster, you're-